I didn't plan to end up in a funeral home. In fact, I'd spent 35 years in HR, suits, spreadsheets, performance reviews. Then one day, it was gone. No pension, no farewell party, just a box of things and a silence I wasn't ready for. I thought I'd hit rock bottom, but what came next wasn't failure. It was peace. This isn't a story about business. It's about what happens when your identity dies and something better takes its place. I was one of the stable ones. Same job for decades. Comfortable office, middle management. HR wasn't flashy, but it gave me purpose, or so I thought. People came to me with problems. I fixed them. At home, I was the guy who always had answers. I thought that meant I mattered. I wore dependability like a badge. I thought being needed was the same as being whole. But the truth is, I never stopped to ask what I wanted or what it all added up to. I was too busy being the guy who always showed up. I thought I understood my life because it looked like success. But looking back, I think I was just scared to shake anything loose. But truthfully, the last 5 years I was coasting. Quiet meetings, recycled advice, younger hires I barely understood. I told myself I was mentoring them, but I was just trying to stay relevant. I'd lost curiosity, but I dressed it up as experience. I used to come home proud. Lately, I came home tired. There was a numbness I couldn't name. I chalked it up to age, to burnout, to the world moving too fast. But deep down, I think I knew the truth. I wasn't growing anymore. I was just holding my place until someone younger and cheaper took it. And part of me was relieved when they finally did. Then came the meeting. Not even in person. Restructuring. Thank you for your service? I nodded. I even smiled. But when the screen went black, I sat there, hand frozen on the mouse, thinking, I gave them my life, and now I'm no one. 35 years summed up in 10 minutes and a company-branded pin. No handshakes, no goodbyes, just silence. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just sat. The room didn't feel like mine anymore. My desk felt like it belonged to someone else. Maybe it always had. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't working, and I had no idea who I was without that. My wife had passed years earlier. The kids were grown. No one depended on me anymore, and suddenly, that felt less like freedom and more like floating. I applied for jobs, got ghosted, took gig work, drove people around the city while podcasts tried to convince me everything was fine. I smiled at strangers in the rearview mirror while wondering how long I could keep this up. I cut expenses, skipped meals, said, I'm just figuring things out, more times than I can count. But I wasn't. I was stalling. I'd spent a lifetime teaching others how to move forward. Now I couldn't take a single step. And the worst part? No one noticed, because I didn't let them. It's strange how quiet life becomes. No team, no calendar, no emails to pretend to be annoyed about. Just long stretches of time and the creeping thought, was that it? I started measuring days in cups of coffee and reruns. My phone barely rang. Friends were still working. I didn't want to burden the kids. I told myself I liked the solitude, but it was more like waiting. Waiting for a version of myself to return that probably never would. There's a kind of loneliness that doesn't come from being alone. It comes from feeling like you no longer matter. And I was deep in it, silently, stubbornly, pretending I was fine. One day, my neighbor asked me to help him out. He worked at a small funeral home, nothing fancy. Said he was short-handed and needed someone to sit at the desk while he stepped out, just for a few hours. I said yes because why not? I had nowhere to be, no meetings, no sense of direction. That's how it started, not with a vision or calling, but with boredom and a favor. I didn't even dress up, just jeans and a sweater. I expected awkwardness, maybe silence. Instead, I got something else entirely. I thought it'd be uncomfortable, that I'd feel like an intruder among grief. But the weird thing is, I felt calm, like something in me exhaled. No hustle, no performance, just real people dealing with real loss. And for once, I wasn't pretending to know what to say. I didn't have a checklist or protocol. I was just there. And it felt more honest than anything I'd done in years. Something about the pace, the quiet. It didn't scare me. It steadied me. I didn't tell anyone, but I offered to help again and again. Not because I was fascinated by death, but because I finally felt useful. Not productive, not employed, just present. I showed up early, stayed late, cleaned, listened. No titles, no targets. Just human moments. A tissue box refilled. A cup of tea for someone who couldn't find words. It wasn't dramatic, but it mattered. I felt it in my chest. I started assisting more, not embalming. I wasn't ready for that, but arranging chairs, making coffee, sitting with families when they didn't want to be alone. It wasn't training. It was listening. And it was harder than any job I'd ever had. I wasn't in control. I couldn't fix anything. All I could do was hold space for whatever came up. The tears, the silences, the arguments over who got the ashes. It stripped me down. And weirdly, I wanted more of it. At first, I tried to be efficient, optimize things, bring my HR brain. But death doesn't care about flowcharts. People don't need answers. They need space. I had to unlearn the way I'd measured my worth. No one cared how many tasks I checked off. They cared if I looked them in the eye, if I remembered their father's name, if I knew when not to speak. That was the work, and it changed something in me. It made me softer, slower, less afraid of silence. There was a service, small, just a daughter and her father. No guests, no priest, just music and 2 chairs. I sat quietly while she played him his favorite song. She cried, and I realized this moment mattered more than anything I'd ever scheduled in a boardroom. No metrics, no titles, no quarterly goals, just presence. Loss strips everything down. It leaves only what's true. That day, watching her hold his hand until the final note faded, I thought, this is sacred, and I don't need to explain it. I just need to keep showing up. Some nights, I'd ask myself, is this just what happens when you run out of options? Did I fall into this work because no one else would have me? I mean, who decides to start over at 61? And in funerals, of all things. But the more I questioned it, the more I understood. I wasn't trying to escape failure. I was trying to stay close to something real. This work, odd as it seemed, was asking more from me than anything I'd done before. Not performance, not productivity, just heart. And that scared me, but it also made me feel alive. I started writing little notes in my head to the people we buried. You mattered. She stayed till the end. You were loved. I didn't know them. Most had no idea I was even in the room, but in those quiet moments, I felt like I was part of something ancient, a final witness, a kind of invisible thread between the living and the gone. I never said the words out loud, but thinking them kept me grounded. It reminded me that what we leave behind isn't money or status. It's moments, kindness, the shape we leave in people's memories. After about a year of helping out, I had this thought I couldn't shake. What if there was a space for goodbyes that didn't feel scripted, not glossy, not grim, just honest, gentle, familiar? I wasn't trying to disrupt anything. I just wanted a room where someone could cry, laugh, sit in silence, whatever they needed. I called it simple goodbyes. No business plan, no funding deck, just a fold-out table, a second-hand kettle, and a handful of chairs. But it felt right, not like a job, more like a promise. She'd just lost her sister, wanted something personal. No sermons, no pressure, just a quiet goodbye. I listened. We set up a little room in a community center, played her sister's favorite old jazz album, served her favorite tea, lit some candles. That was it. Afterward, she hugged me, not out of gratitude, more like relief. She said, it felt like her. That line stayed with me, because that's what it should be, right? Not generic, not polished, just real. That was the moment I stopped doubting and started believing I could actually do this. I didn't need a staff, didn't want a scale. I wasn't chasing revenue or writing blog posts about legacy. I just wanted to offer something I couldn't find in my old world. I spent decades in HR, watching people get filtered down to bullet points. But here I was witnessing the full story. The messy, beautiful, honest goodbye. That was enough. I didn't need recognition. I just needed to keep showing up, one goodbye at a time. It wasn't easy. I was 61, trying to reinvent myself with no map. My savings dwindled faster than I expected. I made mistakes, double-booked a room once, forgot to order flowers another time. And there were moments I stumbled through other people's grief, not knowing if I was helping or just in the way. But here's the thing. No one ever asked me to be perfect. They didn't care about polish. They just wanted someone who gave a damn. Someone who showed up. And slowly, quietly, I learned that care, real, human care, is more powerful than any script or plan. For most of my life, work meant titles, reviews, suits and meetings, and long email threads about things I didn't believe in. But now, it's different. Work means remembering someone's name when they can barely say it themselves. It means making coffee and asking if they've eaten, sitting in silence when there's nothing left to say. I never thought that would feel like enough, but it does. Because now, my worth isn't tied to how impressive I sound. It's measured in presence, in being here, fully, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. There's no headline in what I do, no breaking news, no moment where it all comes together and the music swells, just a quiet rhythm, unlocking the door, setting out chairs, heating the kettle, making space for tears or for stillness, hanging up a photo, playing a favorite song. Some days, no one says thank you. Some days, they do, and they cry while saying it. But the peace I've found here isn't loud. It's not shiny. It's earned slowly, one honest goodbye at a time. And that's more than enough for me. In my old life, I was a guy who knew policy, who got copied on every email. I fixed problems. I gave answers. That was my value. But now, I sit with people when there are no answers, when nothing I say can fix it. And somehow, that feels more real, more me. I've become someone who listens, someone who holds space, someone who doesn't rush grief or shame it or try to tidy it up. I never planned to become this version of myself, but now that I'm here, I can't imagine going back. That's the strangest part. Being around death every day didn't make me morbid. It made me more alive. I see how fast it goes, how nothing is promised, and I don't want to waste time pretending I have forever. I don't scroll past people anymore. I don't chase things that don't matter. I stop more often. I breathe slower. I love harder. And I try, as best I can, to live in a way that would make a good goodbye easier. Not for me, but for the people I'll leave behind someday. That's not fear. That's peace. It'd be this: don't confuse being needed with being whole. For a long time, I thought my worth came from being useful, the guy with the answers, the one who got the promotion, who always knew the policy. But when all of that disappeared, I thought I had disappeared too. Turns out, the best parts of me didn't show up until I stopped trying to prove anything. The gentler parts, the patient parts, the parts that could sit in silence without needing to fill it. I used to chase validation. Now I know that being present, really present, is enough. What gets me every time isn't the death itself. It's the people who stay. The brother who sits long after everyone else has left. The friend who brings old photos no one asked for. The daughter who carries her father's coat on her lap like it still holds weight. I get to witness that now, not because I'm a saint, not because I'm brave, but because I decided to stay, too, to show up when it's messy, to keep the kettle warm, to hold space for the kind of love that doesn't walk away, even when it hurt. Here's the strange twist. I thought I was building a business about endings, but the more I did this work, the more I realized the goodbyes are just the surface. Underneath them are real hellos, the kind of connection I never found in boardrooms. You learn someone through the stories people tell about them, through their favorite mug or the song they hummed every morning. It's not flashy, it's not marketable, but it's real. And in those small details, I've seen more truth than in all the corporate retreats and vision statements of my old life. I didn't plan any of this. I wasn't following a dream or chasing reinvention. I was just a man who'd been laid off, driving to make ends meet, covering a shift no one wanted. But I said yes to something strange. I walked into a quiet room full of grief. And for the first time in years, I felt still. I felt honest. I didn't need to fix anything. I just needed to be there. And somewhere in that stillness, I found myself again. Not the resume version, the real one. And he was quieter than I remembered, but finally at peace. Before we go, I just want to say thank you for spending this time with me. Gerald's story isn't loud. It's not built on big wins or flashy reinventions. It's a story about quiet courage, the kind that doesn't make headlines but makes life more honest. If this moved you, if it reminded you of someone you know or of something you've been holding in, take a second to like the video. It helps us tell more stories like this. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. We share real human stories every week. Not about success, but about truth. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever started over, not because you wanted to, but because you had to? What does peace mean to you now, compared to what it meant when you were younger? If Gerald's journey spoke to you, you might want to meet George, a man who left everything behind to whisper to rocks in the Arizona desert. His story isn't about finding meaning. It's about releasing the need to find it at all. You can watch that